Excellent. So thank you so much, Rachel, for coming on. I just want to make a special welcome to anyone that's watching who might be new to me, new to us, new to this, or anyone that's struggling, because you're definitely in the right place. There's going to be loads of wisdom and loads of really good stuff that comes out of this. And everyone that I've spoken to so far, I've got a nugget and or a whole box of nuggets from people that I've spoke to so far. So I'm so excited for today. So I'm Andrea from Dominant Mindset Coaching, and I was a dominatrix for about 12 years. And now I'm a confidence coach helping women to stop asking for permission and start creating more power. And today with me, we've got Rachel. So Rachel, can you tell everyone who you are and just a little bit about yourself and what you do?
So I'm Rachel Borwnstein. I go by she, her. I guess that's something to share for people so they know who to hurl abuse at. I'm currently a YouTube content creator. I've got a vegan cooking channel. And I'm also a public speaker and writer. The public speaking, I talk about my experiences working in the adult film industry and also sex work as a greater whole. And really the intent is to kind of demystify it a little bit, rehumanize the workers themselves, and just to kind of dispel some of the myths that are out there about sex work, because I'm sick of being told I'm an abuse victim, or I've got no power, or, I lack autonomy, or I was pressured in, all of this nonsense that the media keeps hammering home. Yeah. And then writing on, I do a bit of ghostwriting. I've also written a memoir. Yeah, so I'm a very creative, need to be doing multiple things type of person. I've got many strings for many bows.
Excellent. That's so interesting. I can't wait to hear more about it. And you're someone that I've followed for a while on Twitter, and I've loved how vocal you are about things, because the more we speak about them and uncover and unconceal the mystery of it all, the more we get to kind of integrate people, because we really are all connected, but we create these disconnects. I feel that kind of that others people, you're this, so you must be that, and you're not the same. And it's like, we are the same because we all share one thing, and that's our own humanity. So that is something that I really love that you do, and that's something that I'm passionate about as well, is just helping workers just be seen as workers, as humans, is just the same as everyone else. So yeah.
Absolutely.
So one of the things that I want to invite listeners to do, if you're listening to this right now, is just to listen in a particular way. And I'd love for you just to listen for the similarities that we share, and put aside any differences and just leave that be, because that will interrupt you from being able to really connect with us. So yeah, just listen for the similarities in our stories and our sharing. So the thing that I always start off with, Rachel, is what is it that you think makes a woman powerful?
So in my own personal experience, I've noticed, and it's age, for myself at least, as I've gotten older, I'm less and less tolerant of other people's bullshit, men or women. I just, you have these interactions and you try and fit yourself in their box so that you're palatable, and then you come away from it thinking, well, I didn't have any fun, I haven't learned anything, and I've kind of walked away from that interaction feeling not so great about myself because I didn't speak up when I could have done, or I wasn't authentic. I know that word gets bandied around an awful lot, but it's true. And I think, I sort of hit that point where if I don't feel good about myself after spending time with somebody, then that's something that needs to be addressed. And just, I'd rather sit at home on my own than, going out and hanging around with people who are very catty or bitchy or manipulative, all these other things that you can see it if I sit in the pub having a pint, people watching, and the conversations that other people have, particularly younger women. Yeah. It seems they're kind of tearing down other people to lift themselves up. And I guess that's kind of been conditioned into women from a young age. It's all in magazines. On one page it's be your best you and you're beautiful, and then the next page it's hoop of horror, look at the state of her fucking cellulite. I'm like, what's that all about? Why do we have to tear other people down in order to feel something positive about ourselves? It just drives me crackers. So I think age is definitely one, but that's obviously not something you can teach. So
So what is it the age gives you, or what is it that you believe that you learn over that time period that really cements that power for you?
I think when it comes to men, for example,
Mm-hmm.
and especially I think doing sex work, it gives you that insight into the side of men that most women don't ever get to see, and their vulnerabilities, and how unsure of themselves they are deep at heart, but then they feel as if they have to put on this front of being very collected and together and hard and, emotionless and all of this kind of thing.
Yeah.
But, I used to do escorting, and a lot of the time they'd spend 50 minutes chatting about their lives, because I just gave them that opportunity in a safe space just to say whatever they wanted without fear of any consequences. So they were just able to say things about their lives that were making them really distressed, or making them feel less than or underappreciated, or this kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I think that helped, knowing that, okay, well, he looks super confident and he's saying all the right words, but inside I think there might be something else going on, and he's kind of faking it till he makes it, almost.
Yeah.
So there's that realization of, you're no different than me.
Yeah.
It's, you look really gathered, but underneath I can see that seething fire of the imposter syndrome telling you suck at everything, just like I do.
It's like the swan, isn't it? The graceful swan, and then the feet underneath, like, it's not okay.
absolutely. And I guess, women are taught to talk and to be emotional, and men are quite often, not all the time, but are quite often told to bottle everything up and just be a man, and you can't show emotion because anger apparently isn't an emotion. But yes, so I think so much bad is done to men in because of that, the sort of the toxic masculinity that we talk about.
Mm-hmm.
It really is destructive for men. This is from a woman looking, I can't comment on what it is or is not like.
I see it too, and I see it in clients, and I saw it all the way through when I was in the adult industry. Is just seeing that a lot of men, especially the ones that were coming to see me, because I saw that whole side of things where they got to be vulnerable, and they got to show that other side of themselves that they've never even told anyone about, never mind actually indulged in it. And they get to just go, oh, right, I can just be me. And it's like that armor comes off, and they get to be weak and vulnerable and get things wrong and all of those things. And you get to see that nothing bad happens when you get things wrong, right? And so I'm fully with you with all of that. Absolutely.
Yeah. And I think also, I've had multiple different types of therapy over the years, psychotherapy, CBT, person-centered. That's what I do at the moment. But I think one of the most beneficial ones, practically speaking, is DBT, which is dialectical behavior therapy.
Yep, heard of that. Mm-hmm.
It's a kind of 12, or the one I did at least was a 12-month program. Mm-hmm. And it's a blend of mindfulness and CBT skills, but it's done in a really functional way. So they teach you a module, and you kind of put things into practice, and you go back every week and report back. But it teaches things like sort of distress tolerance and interpersonal skills. And I think a lot of those I've kind of sucked up like a sponge, and then they just come into play without me having to really think about it and do it. Sometimes you do, if you're in a very heightened state, anxiety's kicked off, that kind of thing. You have to, okay, what are my skills? What can I do?
Yeah.
But absolutely. On the kind of day to day, I find myself thinking something and then doing something immediately after. And then I'm like, oh, well, that was emotion regulation, or that was distress tolerance.
Because the more you practice this stuff, the stronger it gets, and absolutely, it just becomes your way that you do things.
Yeah. And we in the group I was in, I think there was sort of between 4 and 8 of us. It kind of, people drop out, people join in. But I think we do a topic, say emotional distress, for example, one week, and then the following week we'd all come back and talk about how we use that skill in that week. So you'd get sort of 4 to 8 examples of how to put the skill into practice. And I think that was the most beneficial part, because, you can read it in a book, and the therapist can tell you how to do it, but
there's
then
nothing like just doing it.
And
You
the
have
lived
to.
experience, the real world experience of, someone saying, I went to the shop and the shop person said this to me and I said that back to them. And, and then you're like, oh, okay, yeah, I can see how in that situation what you could have done, but you instead went into wise mind and you chose not to launch over the counter and headbutt her. Well done.
And it's like that action step is the breakthrough step. People think it's the talking and the thinking and all of that, but it's the action really that breaks you through, that changes the course of your life. Like, and it's like, I always get this wrong, but there's like a metaphor that you can use about there's 4 birds sitting on a perch and 3 of them are going to jump off. How many's left? Well, 4, because they only said they were going to do it. They didn't actually jump, right? So, and that kind of thing is really, it's always the action step, and that's the last step. And I teach a process to people called the 5D power process, and it's about being able to self-coach and give them the tools that it becomes part of their thinking. But the last step is always what's the action that you're going to take and by when. So there's a cut-off point, right? You're going to have to put a time on it as well, not so you can't put it off and you can't. And it's the next tiny action. So it's not, let's tackle the whole thing. It's what's the next tiny little thing that you can do, manageable step that will take you in the next direction. And that tends to open up the whole world. And then before you know it, you're in motion.
And I find as well, even the act of going to therapy, or I assume it'd be the same for taking on a coach, the action of doing that for yourself is actually quite therapeutic, because you're making a commitment to yourself to change what it is that's causing you a lot of pain, or you keep coming up against the same problems over and over again. So by even just saying, I'm going to meditate for 10 minutes every day and doing that for yourself, I think that has a really powerful, I am worth it.
You're reinforcing I'm important and I matter, and my mind matters, and how I feel matters, and how I interact with the world matters. And that's what you're doing. You're putting that solidly in place. Because I've noticed the same, like I've taken on a lot of personal development over the past few years, and every time I book something changes, because I've put it into my future. I've told myself this is coming, and it kind of almost brings about a sense of calm, a sense of peace. And that's when it starts, when you make the booking. It's not when you get on the course, it's when you book it that it starts. It's like when you book a holiday, you can look through the brochures all day long, but it's when you book it that you start going, right, okay, bikinis, I need swimsuits, I need this, I need that, and where am I going to go and book my excursions? And you start getting excited. And now you're already, you might have 3 weeks left at work, but your head's not in work, your head's on holiday.
Your head's on the beach.
Like, oh, right, so what am I going to drink? And what's it going to be like at the bar? And I wonder who I'll meet, and will there be any nice guys there, and all of that stuff, right? And that's when your holiday starts. The minute you hit send on that credit card payment, it's done. So you might as well be there, because you're not going to talk about anything else until it happens. So and that's exactly it. So what's something that you would say you've gone through that has really helped you to create more power in your life? I always find that power comes from some sort of adverse event or something that we really need to look inside ourselves and say, right, what am I made of? How am I going to get through this? So what's something that's given you tons of power in your life?
A great example for me, I think, would be leaving adult films. And it never was a conscious decision to retire. I just stopped going to LA. But, so I made the decision, right, I'm going to leave that world and find something else, because I'm not feeling fulfilled. I'm not using my brain. I'm not being creative. And it was a difficult kind of non-decision to make, because the amount of income you earn compared to what I would earn I don't have qualifications or anything. So it's like, how do you go from $1,000 a day to 70 quid a day? That's, it's a massive, exactly. So, but it needed to be done for me psychologically to be able to, to find some peace and to feel more in alignment with what I need to do. But then men on the internet have made it their hobby to follow me around whatever I do and connect my real name to my stage name. and, create playlists on YouTube and, just going out of their way to create mischief for me. And, I've been fired twice because I've been recognized as a porn star. And, apparently it's okay for men to wank, but not for women to make the wanking material. That's bad, apparently. So I kept sort of, building myself back up again psychologically, and then getting knocked back down again, but just refusing to stay down, because I could have kept off social media, had no online presence at all. That would have saved me a whole bunch of trouble. But I just thought, I can't let these guys, this handful of guys dictate my life like that. It's just not, it's not fair, and it's not practical, really. In 20, in this decade, in this century, we can't not really have social media, especially if you're self-employed, because you need to be able to market and all of that.
And so many people just get bullied off the internet, or they feel like they have to make themselves small because of the comments and the opinions of like just guy on the internet or woman on the internet who's bored, like, I hate you, let's send you some vile shit. And it's like, you don't have to make yourself smaller, take yourself off. And I think that's such a powerful message for anyone who is visible on social media, or even just dealing with people that are being a bit nasty or being trolls, or, state your opinion, state it loud and proud, and then you'll call your people towards you. So the people that don't like you will just never like you, and that's good. It's good to find out now. But the people that are your people will suddenly be able to find you, and then you end up with a whole bunch of people that kind of think the same way, hold the same values, and sort of, and it's cool. Like I love that you do that, and that's a real sense of strength, because I know of many people who have just disappeared because of bullying on the internet.
Yeah, I mean, despite my stage name not appearing anywhere on any of my social media, I still get guys saying, "Oh, hi Alexis," or trying to slide in the DMs, and it's just like, the only reason you found this profile is because I was doxxed. Someone released my legal name out into the world, and you think I'm going to respond favorably to you encroaching on my life when I'm clearly, I retired over 10 years ago, and to still get pestered. And they always, and again, it's, oh, I wish you'd come back to the industry. You're so much better than the girls here now. And I'm like, pulling down other women to give me a compliment is not a compliment. Like, it's horrible. Yes,
it's not the compliment you think it is.
It's just, but I guess there are women that respond to that kind of thing, but I do wish people wouldn't do it. Same with the cooking thing. It's like, oh, so-and-so better look out, Nigella better look out, you're coming for it. It's like, no, there's enough eyes and enough cooking, enough space in the cooking world for both of us. It's not a competition.
Like we were saying before we jumped on this call, there's space for Nigella, there's space for you. In fact, the world is infinite. We've got space, as much space as anybody would ever want. So yeah, but I think people love that, don't they? They love that drama. They love that kind of, we'll pit them against them and we'll see what happens. And it's like, first of all, I need to give a fuck about that before that'll work. Right? So that's where your plan just falls apart right there, because I don't give a shit about anyone else. So
it's like they want this celebrity death match kind of, and it's like, exactly. Mate, I'm just cooking, I'm making fudge, like it's not one man, two man enters, one man leaves. It's cooking. Just calm your ass down. Just lie back, learn how to cook, and stop trying to create conflict where it doesn't exist and it doesn't need to exist.
Tame your tits and testicles, folks. It's just fucking fudge.
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh man. So what would you say would be the kind of the lessons that you've learned from going through all that process of, leaving the adult industry, setting up the cooking show and doing everything else that you're doing, but still dealing with that stuff? What have you learned from that? What's the gold that you've taken?
So for me, it's a recent thing really that I started speaking openly and kind of, I outed myself about 6 months ago, because I'd started doing podcast appearances. I was like, I've got a lot of followers on here that probably don't know what I used to do, so I'm gonna have to explain myself. And I felt sick as I was writing the post, and I posted it, but like the outpouring of support was incredible. It was really, really heartwarming to, lots of fans saying, I've loved you your entire career, and I'm so excited that I still get to watch you on screen. It's just a totally different thing, but I love it. There's only, you are the only woman that could make me contemplate eating vegan food. I'm like, and that's how vegans are made. I'll tempt you in being all sexy, and then I'll feed you a carrot.
So hold on, I need some tips here. So I have a partner who is terrified of fruit and veg.
Oh, right.
And carrots are his nemesis, right? He will not eat a carrot. So, and it probably comes from something early on, but is there any way that I could dress up carrots that would make him more amenable to them?
Does he
if he's watching this, he's probably like, "Can you fucking?"
I guess it depends what it is about carrots that he's really like. If you've only ever had boiled carrots as a kid, like especially in British schools, they boil the fuck out of anything. And it's just that's not a veg. It used to be. It's not anymore. I love making. I do like a carrot and radish salad, so very finely sliced carrots on the mandolin, and then spring onion, loads of chili, and orange and lime juice over the top. So it's a bit like coleslaw, but they're not as claggy and heavy.
Right.
So could be, if you like crunchy things, because I'm a big fan of crunch.
He eats it's meat and potatoes. That's him. So that's something that I'll try, and I'll see if I can just put a wee bit on the side of his plate, or on a side plate, so it's not even on his plate, and see what he does with it.
Have a nibble on it.
That's because that sounds delicious, and he loves chilies. He grows his own chilies, so maybe that's something that if we incorporate the chili and the spice, then maybe that's something he could do. So amazing. So the next part is I like to ask these questions to clients. This is an exercise that I do with them, and it's really about it creates a lot of good perspective, but also I just love hearing the answers, because I get such a breadth of answers from people, and I can see what's really important to different people. So for some it's very practical, and for others it's like very whimsical. For some it's family, and so there's two things in life that is absolutely guaranteed, and one of them is that we're all going to die one day, and the other one, I know, grim, and the other one is that we don't know when. So, it could be in the next 5 minutes. I might just face plant my desk and that's me done with, but hopefully not. So if you knew that you only had 24 hours left to live, how would you spend them?
I'd go and see mum and dad. I'd spend, spend a bit of time with them, maybe cook them some lunch. And then I would go skydiving, because I love it. It's incredible. And then I would go, I think, to every restaurant in Leeds that has a vegan option, and I would eat every vegan option in every restaurant in Leeds and just die very full.
Oh, excellent. That sounds absolutely grand. And now we'll stretch it a bit. So what if you had a week? How would you spend that?
I'd love to travel, just go on a holiday or go island hopping around the Caribbean, that sort of thing, to somewhere that I've not been before, because I've done a fair bit of the world, but I'd love to. There's something about the Caribbean that always. My biological father is Jamaican, that we know of. I'm adopted, so I'm not 100% sure, but I'd love just the ocean and the waves and the beaches. It just looks so beautiful. But see the kind of, I don't know how to describe it, like the underside, so not just the touristy side, but speak to local people and find out what they eat. Like I'm very food obsessed.
I'm picking that up from you.
If I'm in a bad mood, just give me a cookie and I'll perk right most of the time. So I think just being very self-indulgent, and all right, I've got a week to live, I'm going to die in a week, so this is all about me now, so I'm going to go where I want, do what I want, never hurt anybody else, but just be very selfish with my time. And at the moment I've got a condition called Ehlers-Danlos syndrome,
Okay.
And it's a connective tissue disorder. So it affects all the soft, squishy parts of my body. And it
Yeah.
manifests in chronic pain in my joints and chronic fatigue.
Okay.
And then I got COVID. So I'm now dealing
Oh,
with long COVID, and it's made everything that I already had much worse. And I was talking, whenever I talk about it, people are, oh, I feel so bad for you. And, oh, I wish I could do something. And it's like, stop centering yourself in my pain. Like,
yeah.
I don't need to know that you wish you could do something to help, because you can't. So, making it about you is, it's not helpful. It doesn't do anything for me.
So, I mean, what could people say that would be what would you like to hear from people?
I guess even just that sucks. I'm so sorry you're going through that. Like, that's all it needs
Okay,
to
cool.
be, it's, and then, so last week, I put out I decided I wasn't going to do a YouTube video, because it's a lengthy process with the editing and everything. It takes a lot of energy and a lot of focus. So on Tuesday, I put up a post saying, no video this week, I'm afraid, and then explained, bad pain and fatigue, and I just need to look after myself for a bit. And I got lots of lovely messages, but several, and they were all from men, which is what stuck out to me. But they're all saying you don't need to apologize. And I keep coming back to this over the last few days. Like, I never apologized. I said, I'm afraid, but that is me softening the blow, because I know, there are people that watch every week, and people have told me they watch for not to learn how to cook, but they just find my presence on screen very comforting, a bit like is it AMSR, ASMR?
Yeah, ASMR. Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, the tingles, love it.
Yeah. And they just watch because it kind of calms them down a little bit.
Yeah.
So, I was kind of trying to soften the blow of, there's no video this week, I'm afraid. And then explaining why, because people talk so much. We need to be open about mental health. We need to be open about chronic illness. Mm-hmm. So this was me being real. And there's more to me than the cooking and the bikini picture that I post. Yeah. There is a human being underneath that's really struggling. And it's really stood out for me that they've seen that as an apology. Mm-hmm. And I don't understand why. I can make assumptions about why, and I'm wondering if are they seeing that as a weakness, and then they need to then protect me, or I don't know what it's about. But it was all men. That's what stood out to me. Okay. Not a single woman had said, you don't need to apologize. And it's, and I've reread the post several times, and there is no apology in there.
I think
it's
sometimes
weird.
Well, what I've seen is that people can sometimes take any sort of explanation or justification for what you're doing as an apology. Mm-hmm. And especially men, and I mean, I'm not putting a sweeping brush across them or anything, but what I've noticed is men are less likely to excuse or justify what they're up to. So it's just, I'm just not making a video. And then it's like, there's nothing after that. It's just, I'm just not doing it. So, but I guess most of the time I don't think to question, oh, how come you're not doing it? Because I just go, okay, I accept it and I move on. And I think there's something to learn from that I'm just not doing it, and that's it. And I get the staying open, and it's a beautiful thing that you're doing, but it's really down to you personally, what you want to do and how you want to put things out there and what you want to put out there. But people are going to hear things through their lens, and if they see explanations or justifications for things as apologies, then that there's something there for them in that, and that they see that as being an apology, or as being I guess just saying sorry for not doing something. And it's like, maybe that's not something that they would ever do, or I don't know, there's something there for that though, but that would be a good conversation to have, maybe.
Yeah, I think it's because it wasn't about apologizing, or it was just this desire to be truthful and to get that conversation out there that the people are suffering, but we hide it. So I'm going to not hide it from anyone. I'm going to be honest about what's going on, and just so people can get that understanding that it's, because Instagram especially, it shows this perfectly curated life that, and everything looks amazing, but you know, you can almost guarantee everybody in these amazing pictures has got some shit in the background that's really hurting them, or making them angry, or some, you know, some negative thing is going on at some part of their lives, but we just don't see it. So, I mean, I've heard it a metaphor as, don't compare somebody else's show reel to your behind the scenes. And I've seen that's a perfect kind of analogy to sum it up. So it's, you know, and I think if we can, the more we can talk about mental illness and physical health, excuse me, and physical illness, the better the world will become, I think, because we've got that that ability to do that with each other, and just to feel, okay, I don't have to be perfect all the time. I can be flawed, and that's okay, and I can be supported and loved, not despite it, but because of it, sort of thing.
And especially if you've got a platform to do it as well, because we very rarely share ourselves honestly. And some people don't share themselves honestly with the people around them, never mind the internet. And so it's, you know, I find it really healing for myself and for other people to just connect with that real, like, authenticity, as we were saying earlier. And I share my shit that's going on for me. And, you know, I was in a cafe recently, a guy touched me and I was like, ugh. And I thought, you know what, I'm just going to share it. I'm going to share what was there for me, what I thought, how I felt, and how I dealt with it, because someone else might be dealing with that, and then they might take something from that that might be useful. So yeah. So we're going to stretch it again. So we've 24 hours with a week. What would you do with a year if you had a year left?
Oh, see, that is a big one. I guess I'd want to leave a legacy, or leave a mark, or something like that. And I think a part of that would be maybe selling everything that I own and giving that to charities in Leeds, you know, in my local area, and just doing something positive in that way. And then doing the traveling and meeting different people, and just sort of soaking up a maximum amount of positive humanity as I could before, you know, shuffling off the mortal coil. And I think I'd try my hardest not to feel any negative emotions in that year, and just if someone's pissing me off, just walk away from them. Like, okay, we're done. I don't need to be with you anymore,
because it's not important when you put it in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah, exactly. And it, you know, instead of I'm trying to think of example, or, you know, if I had a job I hated, which I don't, but if, you know, if it was in that context, you know, walk away from that job. Don't spend 12 months in a job you hate, you know, just slugging away till you die. Don't do it. Just leave it all. And if it's practical, you know, just walk away from everything that's pulling you down and that's causing any kind of ill feeling, because life in that context is way too short to not be doing things that are fun for you or pleasant.
And the thing is, we don't know if we've only got a year, and we don't know. So we could be living our lives like that right now. And one of the things that I try and make sure of is that I leave every conversation or every interaction as if I'm going to die tomorrow, and that's the last word that I've said to them. Because, you know, when you're in your box and everybody's at your funeral, the one thing they talk about, what was the last conversation you had with them? What was the last thing that you said to them? And I always try and leave it in a good note. Even if I've had conflict or an argument with someone, I always leave it in a good note, because I never want to have that regret or that thing that I don't see them again, and then that's what's left. That's what I'm left with. And I try and make sure, I don't know, like you were saying about just making sure that you just walk away from things that pull you down, because life is incredibly short and it's valuable, because this is it. There's no other choice, there's no other chance at this. And all we've got is right now, and even the next 5 minutes isn't guaranteed. So what advice, we're going to go into another exercise now, but what advice would you give to your 20-year-old self, if you could give her some?
Look after your knees, because they're going to get worse as you get older. Much worse. That's a good one. to develop resilience before anything else, and to be, and I always have kind of been more of a loner, like comfortable in my own company sort of thing, but develop that skill earlier. So like the pandemic for me was fine. Like nothing really changed because I spend most of my time on my own anyway. So for me, I'm like, it's my time to shine. But I can imagine and I can see how some people have really struggled with not being able to get away. I don't know if it's getting away from themselves or just being distracted, or something in that, I guess. But yeah, to develop that resilience and self-reliance, and to be able to inwardly reflect on what it is. If you're going out every night of the week and getting hammered, what are you trying to escape that's inside you? Because I think there's got to be something that you're trying to run away from, or trying to shove back down, or I don't know. It's creating kind of a fake persona in a way, I think, for some people. I'm not saying I never make sweeping generalizations, but I think for some people at least, there is something that they dislike about themselves, and so they think, well, if I drink, I become this very chatty, extroverted person that people respond to and laugh with, so that's what I have to be all the time. So it's like, try and find ways of just sitting with yourself and just going on dates with yourself and just being, it's okay to be on your own, as long as you're doing something that's, if it's reading a book that you love, that's great. That's better than being out in the world and, going to the pub and just hating every second of it. Like just get comfortable with being on your own.
Yeah, absolutely. Because once you're comfortable with you can then just be with other people. You don't need any of that pretense or booze or anything in the space between you. You can just connect.
Yeah.
And what do you think your 90-year-old self would tell you now if she could see you, if she could talk to you?
God, I think it would probably be try not to get so affected by what goes on out in the world. I'm the sort of person that feels things really deeply, so the last 18 months has been really upsetting in so many ways, not that because something's happened to me directly, but having one thing after another thing after another thing, and just people being awful to each other, or governments being horrific to their citizens, and I get so angry or so upset and powerless. I think that's because it's the climate change. It's like I take the window out of my envelopes before I recycle, and I peel the label off my shampoo bowl, but you fuckers are dumping raw sewage in the river. It's like, what am I supposed to do? And it's difficult to turn off your emotional response to things. It takes work, and it's, especially if you're feeling a bit under the weather or whatever, it's harder to be resilient. But in the long term, getting angry about things that are out of your control is pointless, and it's exhausting. But it's still there, and I think that it's healthy to have an emotional response to things, but it's about how to manage that and be kind of productive with it, as well as being affected by it and crying. Okay, we'll take those tears and turn it into a fucking icicle and stabs. I don't know.
Turn it into action, right? Because we can sit in the stands and we can report on life and give opinions and all of that stuff. But it's like watching a football game, shouting at the telly, thinking that's going to change the course of the game, right? We need to be on the pitch, we need to be on the court, we need to be taking action, and our chatter should be action steps, even if it is just ripping the window out of your envelope. That's still an action step. You're still on the court with that. So I love that. What would you love your legacy to be? How would you love to be remembered?
I guess there's two, excuse me. Excuse me. I guess there's kind of two almost radically different things. So I don't want to ever speak for sex workers. I just want to tell people to listen to sex workers, because I think it's wrong to legislate without sex workers in the room. You can't, making laws to protect them without involving them in that discussion is just crazy, you know. So people seem to listen when I talk about my stories, and they're always so rapt, like, oh my God, I never considered that side of things. And it, you know, to me, it's just like, well, yeah, that's how you prep for an anal scene. You know, this is what you do. This is the steps. Oh, yeah, you know, check them out. All right, yeah, I've got a blowjob in the morning, and then boy girl in the afternoon. Yeah, okay, that's fine. And they're just like, but yeah, so people seem to pay attention and really engage with what I'm saying. So if I can take that and say, okay, now listen to these people, you know, the people who are being affected by these policies right now. Yeah, you know, and it's they're the ones that are being affected. It's not about me. It's just about adding my voice and helping to try and amplify people who are trying to make real changes, and to have conversations about sex as a general, not just sex work, because I think we're just so weird when it comes to sex, and we're still you know, we try and pretend to be sexually liberated, but then, you know, we're still so like cringingly like, oh, prudish, I guess is the word. You know, there was an ad for, I think Duracell batteries, and I think they're rabbits, and they're watching a nature documentary, and then the animals start having sex, and they're all like, oh, where's the remote? Oh, this is terribly embarrassing. Like, really? This is how we're approaching sex still?
And I mean, it's just an opinion, it's not the fact or the truth, but I really believe that the more weird we are about sex, the more likely that sexual assault can take place, because you need to be okay with talking about sex to ask for consent. Like, that needs to come first, right? So, and it's more likely people will just go, oh, I can't actually say it, so I'll just try it and see what happens. And it's like, no, stop doing that.
And I think as well, we've got this whole thing of teaching people how to say no, and that's great, but I think it would be even more beneficial to also teach how to say no, not like that, because I think that expands on it and gives you then room to say, I like this, but I don't kind of like what you're doing just there, but maybe move it over to the side a bit. But we just don't teach people how to say that. We don't teach people how to get their needs met. You know, it's all about being, for women as well, being the receiver of the sex rather than active participant in it. And I think that's wrong. I think that really needs to change, as well as the no, yes. It's not binary. It needs to be on a spectrum of but like that. You know,
exactly. Sort of like a confident no, a confident yes, and a confident change this, or do it that way, or do it differently, and once we've got that, then consent becomes easy. But until we've got that, consent's difficult, because it's like, how do I ask someone if they'll use a strap-on me, or how do I ask someone if they want this? And it's like, that's where the breakdown happens. It's not in the consent part. It's in I'm in my own head about this, and I'm going to look stupid. They're going to think something about me. What if they say no, and I'm going to be rejected, and all of that stuff? That's where the problem is. It's not, and that's something that I've learned, you know, over the past couple of years, just doing coaching and stuff, is that actually it starts a lot earlier than just, we can't just keep banging on about consent. What we need to do is talk to people about, why can't you talk about sex? Like, what is there for you? What's in that space? So yeah. So the next one, the next question I've got is about purpose, and purpose is really the thing that gets me kicking my duvet off in the morning, that gets me through the hard times, that gets me to a place where it doesn't matter if it's like pissing down outside, it's a blue sky for me, right? Because I've got this sense of purpose about me now, that what I'm up to and what I want to achieve and why I'm doing it, because a strong why, I believe, will get you through any how. So what's your big strong why for why you do what you do, and what's the, you know, the end goal, or what's the kind of bigger picture for you?
So with the channel, the cooking, that became my coping mechanism for COVID. You know, I could feel myself spiraling into a major depressive episode.
Yeah.
And and started cooking. And then friends were like, why don't you have a YouTube channel? Like, why don't I have a YouTube channel? All right. So, and then so that gave it a real kind of focus for all of my creativity, and in all my other outlets, like the acting, writing, and everything, takes other people, and it all takes time. Whereas the cooking, I could cook and have something in a couple of hours, and then within a couple more hours, theoretically, it can be on YouTube, and I've put something out there and I've made something. And it's all me. It's, me making the decisions, me making the calls and yes, no, instead of just being told, having to follow instructions. And being able to, because I think for me, it's more productive, instead of telling people that they have to go vegan, it's showing them how they can be vegan. Like, you can stop eating meat. Okay, well, then what? But I'm trying to do it in a different approach, and just, that's my kind of activism, is to show them how they can eat vegan food, and how they can cook it and how they can
that brings them in, doesn't it? Rather than creates this, you're not vegan, but it's like, come in, I'll show you how.
Yeah, and it's, it's all, my cooking's typically quite experimental, and I've had an idea and thought, I need to see if that will work. Like, hence the fudge. I'm like, can I make fudge out of a sweet potato? Is that well, let's go find out. So it's so it's kind of, I have the idea and then I just stick the camera on and just roll with it. So it's people are learning as I'm doing, and it's, I talk about why I'm using the ingredients and what their properties are, what substitutes they can use, because I think that, for me at least, is I learn better if I understand why I'm doing something. So instead of just giving a recipe list and saying this is what you put in, I say, well, this is what you put in if you want it a bit thicker, or if you want to get a bit more deep flavored, you can use this and this. Because I don't want people to just cook my dishes. I want them to be able to cook their own stuff, but have the knowledge there of, well, Auntie Rachel told me how to deglaze the bottom of this pan, so I know how to do that now. And just little things that are so transferable to other dishes or other parts of their lives, I suppose.
Yeah, that'll give them confidence in if I can do this, I can tackle that.
Yeah, and I think cooking can be such a daunting one, because I guess you can burn your food and you've lost it. So it can take a little bit of bravery, I suppose, I guess there's so many jokes about bad food that I guess people are a little bit hesitant to be the brunt of a joke, to be the punchline of, do you remember that time that you gave everyone food poisoning? People perhaps are a bit wary of inviting that on themselves. They just, oh no, I won't do that. I won't try, because I don't want to be embarrassed, which is totally understandable. But I know I want to try and give people, some knowledge, and I leave all my stakes in the videos. If something goes wrong, I leave it in, and I try and figure out why it went wrong, to show that things go wrong all the time.
Part of the journey, isn't it? It's part of, like, this might happen to you, but it's okay. So it's
that's it.
I love it. So what final advice would you give to any women that's watching right now who'd love to just have a bit more power in their lives?
Take it. Don't wait for someone to give you power. You've got to take it. And, stop diminishing yourself to protect a man's ego, or anyone's ego, really. But if, somebody says something, or so, for example, on an Instagram post the other day, someone was like, "Oh, Alexis Silva, you're incredible." And so in the comments, I was like, "My name is Rachel Borwnstein, as it states clearly on the top of my post profile. If use it or you're blocked." Okay.
It's as clear a boundary as you want to make, and that's it.
That's it. And I think, and boundaries is another good, just we've got to learn how to be more vocal in our boundaries, and setting and being comfortable in setting them out. People are going to try and walk all over them. That is going to happen. But the more you do it, the more easier it will become, and just be, I was going to say brash, but I hate that word, because I think it's one that's assigned to women, especially she's loud and obnoxious. But just be belligerent and be stern if you don't want someone to do something, tell them. And then if they continue to do it, you just walk away or get them out, just remove them from that situation, and try not to let people step on you if you don't want them, unless you want them to, and that's fine if you do. But it has to be with your consent.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that. Set your boundaries and that's it. Make them like gravity. Gravity doesn't fuck up. If you're walking along the street and you trip over, you don't end up halfway up in the air. Like, you hit the ground. So boundaries, that's it. You stick to it or you don't, and that's it. So I love that. Cool. So thank you so much for coming on and just sharing everything that you've shared today. I've taken so much from it. And how can people contact you or how can they find you if they want to get more information about the vegan cooking or some writing or any of the other amazing things that you do?
So I'm on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook, theoretically, as at Auntie Rachel. And it's Auntie with an IE. And then the A in Rachel is an 8. Because with an A was gone. I've got a website for the speaking, which is racheltalksreality.com.
Excellent.
And then the YouTube channel itself is Auntie Rachel's Chaotic Kitchen.
Beautiful. Amazing. So I will put all of those links into the description for this video for anybody that's watching. And if you'd like to learn a wee bit more about, mindset and becoming powerful as a woman, then please join the Powerful Women Facebook group. It's a private closed group. There's trainings every Thursday at 6 o'clock, and you're welcome along, Rachel. I take people through some exercises about all around the 5D power process so that you can start to self-coach and you can pull yourself out of different holes. So, because one of my values is self-sufficiency. And I want people to be completely and utterly self-sufficient, so they don't need to rely on anyone. If nobody else is about to help them, they've got it. So that's my wish for women. So thank you again so much, and I just can't wait to see the response to this. So
thank you very much for having me on. It's been a lot of fun.
Take care.